yes. I've been rather lucky. This does indeed just bolt on there, and the bolt has miraculously stayed in place. So I can bolt that back together at least. Well, repairing this has proven to be slightly harder than I imagined. The nut, once it's inside here, won't turn because it only just fits in there, and that is loose, so there's no way to tighten the nut onto that, at least not without some ingenuity, which I'm lacking at the moment. So what I've done is cheated. I've basically moved the block that was there down to there because it's slightly shorter, and used one of my spare blocks to replace it. So it's a bit Heath Robinson, but it works. We're back to sailing. Well, nice restful night here in Dale Bay. It's been lovely and calm, but it's almost time to get going again. It's coming up to 6 AM, ready to go, just having the last cup of tea. Well, scratch that. Looks like the windlass is broken. I can't raise the anchor. It still goes down, won't come back up. So I'm just going to see if I can repair that, or at least bodge it for now. If not, it's going to be, I have to pull it up by hand and then get into Milford Haven Marina, I guess, and try and get it repaired. Brilliant. Well, as you can see, I've demolished the windlass. The button's knackered. I can operate it by touching the wires together for now. I'll have to get a new button, re-drill and tap the holes, and seal a new button on there. But yeah, what a pain in the... Unfortunately, we've now missed the window for the tide, so we are either here for another day, or I sail round the outside of the islands, right the way around the outside. The next tide will be at night, so that'll be a night sail round there. We'll wait until tomorrow morning, debating whether to just carry on with it jury rigged. There's no spare parts for that windlass. It's Leroy's Soma. They've not been out of business, but they stopped making windlasses decades ago. And there's no plans for it, there's no parts available. I've spoken to them directly, so it will be a new windlass next winter at least. Can I get away with jury rigging it for now? Let's give it a go and see, I suppose. What's the worst that could happen? Well, exactly what's happened this morning. No, actually, it could be worse. I could be in an anchorage that I have to leave because of the weather that's coming in. So yeah, it could be worse. Better crack on. Make a cup of tea. That's what I need to do. Make a cup of tea. Think about it, then decide. Okay, so after a studious amount of soldering, siliconing, I've botched it back together. I think it will work. Can't test it properly until the silicon's gone off a bit, but let me show you what this amazing repair looks like. There it is. There's rather a lot of silicone on there. After I've removed the rotten portions of the cable which had corroded underneath the sheath. Luckily there was enough length on there. I could solder it back onto the switch and then glue everything in place with stupid amounts of silicone. I'm gonna have to buy some more. I've used most of it. It should do. It should stay watertight. It should carry on working for the rest of this season. In fact, let's test it. Yeah, let's see if it works. I'm a genius! Look, I did a thing! I did a thing! And it worked! Well, 5:45 in the morning, and we're away. And actually we are away this morning. No problems with the anchor windlass. And no problems with anything, but I didn't want to record it just in case. That seemed to be a bit of a problem last time I was recording it. And it broke. So, just making our way out of the bay. And we're making our way out there. This old fort here now apparently is kind of a youth college for environmental and ocean studies. Could be used for something, I suppose. That is St. Anne's Head. I can tell you an interesting fact about St. Anne's Head. If I knew one, but I don't. So the best you're going to get is it's got a lighthouse. So up ahead there, that's Stockholm Island, and just to the right of it is Skoma. Now Skoma you can get a ferry out to visit, and well worth it. Lots of puffins. I'm not sure if there's puffins there at this time of year. I imagine there are. They'll be nesting, I would think, at the moment. Yeah, I went there, stopped there and anchored last year. Spent a couple of nights anchored in the bay around the other side of the island. Absolutely amazing. Well, we're half an hour away from the height of high tide, apparently, but for some reason I'm doing 7 knots on just above tick over, and there's only 6 knots of wind. Don't see how that's possible. I think the timings are completely out. However, there's the gap. I don't see anything really nasty in there, well, at least not from here. So let's shoot it. Basically, I'm going to thread the needle through there, avoiding those rocks, these rocks, and those rocks, and these rocks, and all of the overfalls. You can't avoid the overfalls, but yeah. And then into the bay on the other side. Yeah, baby! Woo! There's the rock to avoid. Well avoided. We're doing 7.5 knots now, slowing down a little bit. Well, feels like about 6 knots of wind. guess I can get another sail out and set this sail properly. So basically we've got an hour now to make the turn of the tide at Ramsey Sound. A lovely calm day so far. Gonna blow tonight apparently. So I want to talk about a little incident that happened on the way into Milford. And not an easy thing to admit, but I'm going to admit it anyway. I hit a lobster pot. So here's the story. The conditions weren't exactly great as we were getting closer to the mouth of the river, and the depth was dropping, the waves were building up higher and higher. The worst bit though was that the wavelength was reducing, so the waves were now every second, every 2 seconds continually, and there was absolutely no way I could see a lobster pot in those conditions. Plus it was foggy, let's not forget that. So I do feel slightly justified in that sense. Anyway, there's 2 routes to come into Milford Haven. There's 2 shipping channels, and there was thick fog, and I knew there was a puffin! Puffin! Two puffins. You probably can't see them on camera. They'll be minuscule little dots, but okay. I'll see my first puffin of the year. That's the main thing, seeing the first puffin of the year. So anyway, I decided to take the left-hand shipping lane because I'm going to the bay up on the left-hand side after we come in, and if there is shipping coming out, which I know there is, I know there's a tanker coming out, but I don't know which side he's going to come out, and I can't see him because of the fog. At least when I go in that side I can stay out of the channel to the left of it and make my way up to the anchorage, stay out of his way. So I'm crossing the channel outside, and the current is flowing from east to west at well over 2 knots. And the current is coming out of the river as well. So I'm gradually having to turn the boat to point. Another puffin! Hello, puffin! I'm gradually having to turn the boat to point further and further eastwards, and I'm effectively crabbing sideways. Couldn't do it under sail. I had to put the engine on as well, and try and make as much progress in as I could, as quickly as I could, to get out of it. Shush. Anyway, I'm sat at the crest of a wave, right at the top of the wave, and the boat's leaning over, and I'm looking down into the trough, and in the trough I can see there's a partially submerged buoy, which means it wouldn't have made the top of the crest of the waves. Anyway, no time to react. The boat's basically going down the other side of the wave, and I see this whitish pink blob go straight under the boat, right where the prop is. Right where the prop is. My heart stopped. Quite literally, my heart stopped. I'm in 3-meter waves, extremely short wavelength, in a shipping channel, with a tanker coming out at the same time, probably in the same shipping lane that I'm in. And if I'm secured to the seabed by a string of lobster pots, well, it's easy to imagine the worst happening, which is the snatching caused by the waves ripping the prop shaft out of the bottom of the boat and sinking the boat. Either that or a bloody great tanker bearing down on you in the fog without a clue you're there and sinking the boat. Basically, all that's going through my mind is sinking the boat. Then there's an almighty bang, and I mean a loud bang. And I'm waiting for the boat to jerk to a stop, for the engine to shudder to a halt, for the whole fucking world to collapse. And it didn't. It didn't. And I looked behind the boat, and behind the boat are little shredded bits of a white, slightly pink buoy, little bits of shredded rope. So the rope cutter was worth every penny that someone else paid to put it on the boat. Absolutely best piece of advice ever. Those conditions, there's no way I could have avoided that pot. There's no way I could have seen it. It shouldn't have been in a bloody shipping lane. For crying out loud, the fisherman that put that out there, what on earth were you thinking? I know, and I apologise. I apologise to that fisherman. You've lost probably thousands of pounds worth of gear because I've trashed your boy. But what the hell? Really? So there you have it. The almost disastrous entrance to Milford Haven. Now, let's see if I can find some more puffins. There's a puffin. Hello, Mr. Puffin. Oh, more puffins. There's a seal. Hello, Mr. Seal. Right, so traversing Ramsey Sound, there's only a couple of little gotchas in here. One, avoid the rocks here, and two, avoid the rocks here. The bitches, as they are called. Screaming past the bitches. Flying along. They're going faster than the wind. So the wind's actually coming from behind. I centred the main because just flapping around uselessly. We're doing 10 knots now, and there were 6 knots of wind. Is there a way to have much more fun on a boat than flying along at 10 knots through this? That was quick. Autopilot's really struggling now. It's just whirlpool after whirlpool. I could take the helm, but I want to record it. So underneath us right now, down there somewhere, is a turbine generating power. The last time I came through here last spring, it was in the process of being built. And having just experienced the tidal flow through there, I kind of think it's probably a good place to put it. I'm now debating whether to carry on across Cardigan Bay, but it looks like the wind isn't going to be quite as bad tonight as the forecast yesterday suggested. It looks like I might still be better off getting a decent night's sleep tonight and then heading across Cardigan Bay tomorrow. It's a long enough sail as it is, especially if I'm going to skip going to Pwllheli or anywhere like that and just head straight round the point towards Holyhead. Not a lot of wind today. This is warm. It's much warmer. No dolphins yet today though. Lots of puffins though. Sorry Frankie. I know you'll probably hate me for having seen loads of puffins again. Well, with Ramsey and Skomer behind us, now running up the northern side of the peninsula, and it's really rather nice, although there's not quite enough wind to sail. I'm determined not to put the engine back on. I might have to put the generator away though. We'll see. Oh well, after that experience, I think I deserve a well-earned break. What's that? There's a fish? Lying buggers. Well, sun's out. It's lovely and warm. Just had a shower out on deck since I had a bit of hot water from running the engine earlier. Feeling clean and warm and happy to be sailing in the sunshine. This is what it's all about. And that lighthouse out there is on the end of Strumble Head, which I could tell you loads of fascinating things about if I'd actually looked up some fascinating facts about Strumble Head. However, just round the corner from there is Fishguard, and then the next bay along after Fishguard is where I intend to go. Okay, I've done my research and I can now reveal to you an interesting fact about Strumble Head. It got its name after somebody with a terrible speech impediment accidentally strumbled and fell from the cliffs at the end. It's a terrible story. I can't put that in the video, it's so awful. So as we're coming past Strumble, we've got the opposite situation to earlier, where we've now got 2 or 3 knots of current against us. The wind has increased to 15-16 knots and is running against the tide. So we've got these gorgeous waves. In the background there, these gorgeous waves. We're running downwind with the waves, so it's not particularly uncomfortable at the moment. The very first time I came here to these waters, It's a little tiny bit later in the year than this. It's a tiny bit later in the year than this. Only a month. And it was the first time I ever saw Atlantic bottlenose dolphins and swallows. That's the first swallows of the year that I've seen. It always has special place in my heart, seeing the first swallows. And there's someone out there who knows why. Just leave it at that. Anyway, bottlenose dolphins, yes. So I'm hoping to see those dolphins again. It was only a small pod, I think there were only about 3 or 4 of them. But even so, it would be bloody awesome. Those swallows. Yeah, that's hard. So here we are, this is where we're going in. Just keeping an eye out for lobster pots because there's quite a few around, as to be expected. So I'd just like to say thank you very much to Phil for his kind donation on Ko-fi, and I'd also like to say thank you so much for all the lovely comments. It absolutely makes my day. Thank you. Peace and fair winds.